Welcome to Slice Property Made Possible. This season is powered by New Zealand Home Loans, local mortgage mentors who have been helping Kiwis achieve their financial goals for 27 years with proven results. The thing I love about NZHL is the mortgages are tailored for you with ongoing personalised service, coaching and tools to put you in control. It doesn't end with buying your property, they continue to help you pay down any loans and build your wealth, which can't be said about all advisors. This season, we will be playfully roasting everyday buyers and experts so you can learn from our mistakes. Head to today's episode notes to get access to our free home buyers software and your very own NZHL advisor. Welcome back to another episode of Slice Your Property podcast. Today we are joined by Jason, co-founder of PocketSmith. Hello, Jason.
Hey, Amy.
Where are you dialing in from today?
I'm dialing in from Dunedin. It's not a great summer. It's pretty cold down here.
I saw a really cruel joke. You know, Jimmy Carr,
Yeah.
the comedian, and he's talking about visiting New Zealand. Have you seen this bit?
I saw him when he came to Dunedin. He was pretty edgy.
I think I just saw it on social media, but he went through and said, I came to New Zealand, like beautiful country. Yeah, I went and saw Hawke's Bay and I thought, oh, this place is lovely. Napier, lovely. Got really nice buildings there, Art Deco. Went down to Christchurch. Oh, they've done such a good job there. Love that. Went to Dunedin and I thought, you know what this needs? Implying that it needs an earthquake. So pretty savage. Like a rebuild, basically, is what he was saying. So I was like,
brutal.
man,
I don't
he's
think he
got zero
built
filter.
that joke in Dunedin, though.
And no, I bet he didn't. Zero filter. I don't know if it would have gone over well in Napier or Christchurch either.
No, I mean, it's still kind of raw, and there are people who are really still feeling the effects of it.
But I guess that's comedy. You laugh until you cry. You purchased your first home in California as well.
No, sorry.
No, a Californian bungalow, sorry.
Yeah, that is
but it's in
correct.
New Zealand.
It is, yeah. I'm still living in it. This is my first home.
Oh my gosh, I love that. Tell us about that.
It was so like we were talking earlier about this questionnaire that you sent, right? About like did we get did we talk to the neighbors? Did we check if it was a flood zone? Did we do any of that? No, many no's actually. So this is in 2003 and I was looking for a home here in Dunedin. And back then I was still living up in North Dunedin and I didn't drive. And so my understanding of the city was like super small. It's just wherever I could walk. Never really even went to the beach unless I had a mate with a car. So again, and this is before the days of Google Maps. I hated having to talk about the days before Google Maps, but you've got to imagine what it was like to not really know your geography.
Oh, I know. I've got Google Maps and I still don't know my geography.
Thank you for that. So keen to find a house, and then we looked in the property press. So again, this is before the days of I think Trade Me Property might be up. Oh no, probably not. I don't know. Like still looking in printed media for the homes that were available. And because we didn't have a car, I rented a taxi and we decided to go to 3 open homes at once. So the first 2, didn't sort of sit quite well. We had a budget of like 150 grand, and that's how much sort of homes are going for in Dunedin at that point. And
yeah, nice. That would be nice.
Yes, right. And so pulled up to this place, really felt a really great vibe looking at it. And as a Californian bungalow, it's single story, it's got quite a low profile, bay windows on both sides. Went in, took a look at it for 10 minutes, left, and made an offer that night. So we basically did none of the of the research. You just felt.
I'm still in a good mood because you're just bringing energy to the episode, but I need to turn my smile upside down at hearing this. So
this is not an advice episode. I'm going to advocate. I co-own
what not to do episode.
Exactly. I co-own a software that does personal finance software, but I'm just going to be quite vulnerable here and just talk about all of the things not to do. So came in, it definitely had a good vibe and just loved it. Like it had been just recently renovated, but it's still a 110 square foot weatherboard home on about 620 square meters. And so yeah, made an offer that night and bought the house for 163K $500.
Nice. To
Yeah.
be fair, but if you could go back in time and just buy anything for 160K without doing any due diligence at all, I still think you'd be doing the right thing.
If we'd known how insane the house prices would get,
Yeah.
absolutely. But back then, we were really agonizing over the additional like 13.5K over budget. And it really was the best decision that I made to just go for it. But here's the kicker, right? I didn't know where the house was because I didn't have an idea as to the geography of
Oh
the city.
no.
So, so that's another thing. Do you know your neighborhood? No, really. I just like we went there, we saw the house, felt really good, and had no way of
That's
getting back.
next level though. You're taking it from like, I'm like, oh, sometimes I don't know what street I'm on. You're like, oh, I just bought a house. Where is it? Don't know.
No idea. And like I'm not like a baron or anything. Like, I was really on the bones of my ass back then. So I just barely had enough money to scrape together for the deposit myself. But it just felt good enough. It felt like a home that was ready to move into. And so you'll find this hilarious because after settlement, uh, came back out to the house, and it was only then we realized that we're like literally 2 blocks from the ocean. Like, oh my God, the beach is here. Dunedin has a beach.
Did you not even know Janine has a beach at that point either?
I did, but like, it was just like, wow, this is awesome. So, we
Yeah,
bought a
you're
house
like,
in the
that's
city.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, just that the surprises keep rolling in. So here's a
Yeah.
quite for
That's a good surprise though, that one.
yes, that's right. So if you don't do your research, you open yourself up to really great surprises. So take
Yeah,
that
I don't know if
as
that's the lesson we're trying to get across there, Jason, but
open up your universe to great surprises. Yes.
and bad surprises. So let's dive into some of that due diligence. Essentially, you made the offer that night. Did you just send through? I mean, it obviously things have changed, and due diligence is a lot more thorough nowadays. Like there's valuation data you can get online in terms of is that the right price, but
Mm.
actually looking at kind of the documents and things like that, those documents still existed. One thing I can say for certain is those documents haven't been redesigned when you're looking at the legal documents that come up with all of those different properties. So what was that process like? Did you just think, oh yeah, that
A little bit like that. One of the questions was like, was it conditional upon anything? And I can't quite remember. I do know that we'd got pre-approval and
yeah,
that I had a great lawyer, and I must have leaned on him for like, he would have said you need to look at the limb reports
yeah.
and all of these other, but we didn't get a builder's inspection or anything like that. So
Yeah.
yeah, so
That
it really was.
that's pretty loose, yeah.
Yeah, it
Um,
might as well have been a sight unseen, right? Like,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
I actually agree with that. I think you're better to get a builder's report than you are to even go into the home. That's a controversial opinion for you right there. Unless you actually are a builder and you know what you're doing, but you can get a lot more from a builder's report than you can from the vibe, Jason. It's time for a segment we're calling Roast My Home Hunt. It's time to roast, don't take it to heart. When we learn from your mistakes, we all get smart.
I do. I have to say though, the vibe. I mean, there's some things that you intuit from the I guess the shape and where the property is. So we're
Yeah.
on. It's flat, right? So
But you didn't know where the property was.
no, but from
No.
what I could see, the ground looked pretty flat.
No, you
Although
mean within the land that
yes,
the
yeah.
right.
So like
Yeah, yeah.
like in Dunedin, you've got houses that are on the hill, and like there's little basement areas, and there are lots of hidden nooks and crannies. With this one,
Yeah.
you could literally walk right around it and really get a good look at the house.
Yeah. So it felt quite like sturdy.
Yeah, and it's a simple house. It's a 1927 weatherboard bungalow, and there's not really too much that could have gone wrong with it, and nothing really has. It's still largely in the same state. Of course, it's had weatherboards replaced, repaints. The roof got replaced recently, and we're doing some work to the front. But yeah, it's taken really good care of us. And I'll add to that. Let's see, in 2018, we bought the house next door. So did we
Nice.
do a builder's report? No.
Oh, Jason, what the hell?
So dude, like we've lived next door to this to town. So it's changed hands about 3 or 4 times in the decade or so that we've been here. And we've long thought that, hey, it'd be amazing actually because this is a small place, and it's not easy to have guests, and we like having family over. And we thought, look, if the place next door is going, we could just join the two properties effectively. I mean, not the buildings, but we just have 1,200
Both
square in
sections.
suburbia.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a flat
Well, I
section.
like the idea. It's the execution I take
Oh
issue with,
yeah,
Jason.
executed perfectly. So
What was that? Another 10-minute offer.
pretty much actually. So we went
10-minute look.
over one
Yeah.
Christmas. Paula, our neighbor, she's a lovely Korean lady who she'd been living by herself, and she's going to move up north to be with her kids. And so she invited us over for like a Christmas tea. And that's when she's like, you know what? I'm ready to move on. And we're like, oh, is that right?
Is that
And
why you
so
invited us over?
and I think the timing was just right. And yeah, no, it's been
Just a
super.
good vibe, was it?
It has it's slightly different vibe. So the houses have like they are almost like siblings, but they're a little bit different. So this is a
Yeah.
1927 bungalow. Next door is a 1926 villa. And there are hints of, similarities between the two, but there aren't enough records about our neighborhood from the 20s and 30s, because I would love to have seen photographs or to understand who built the houses and how did they end up next to each other, because
Yeah. Be
there's
good to know who built them, but no need for a building report.
yeah. Yes. So I want to go all the way back to
I'm
1927.
more of
Never
like
mind when I built the
I'm
house.
more of a history guy, not a kind of current day.
I'm actually more passionate about the spirits that live in this house than the actual bones of the house themselves. So needless to say, had a good vibe about next door as well. And
Yeah,
it's actually,
that's what I'm hearing is like
yeah,
it's Mabo, it's the vibe, it's the constitution.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Now that we've got the two places, it's been amazing. It's an amazing hack to have families stay in a completely separate building and not be actually up in your grill in your own house. Yeah.
Yeah, look, I really do appreciate the concept of buying next door, and also just being able to extend, like if you wanted, you could, you could merge those properties together. Like there's lots that you can do with that. But I think it's just more actually the due diligence, which I take offense with.
Well, if the houses
Um,
are there, they don't look like they're gonna fall down anytime soon. So,
no,
I
not
mean,
at this
this
stage.
is an awful, awful episode for your listeners. I think that sometimes, I think people look really hard for the ideal places, right? And for us, I mean, if I were to be a little bit serious, it just seemed like a really great opportunity to set something up for when since we bought next door, for example, having the two places together means that we can Airbnb it when we
Yeah,
want to, and having guests is so much easier. And looking forward the next 10, 20 years as our parents get older, we want to have them come and stay more often. So there's something really about the situation you're in and the opportunities that come up, that, I mean, I think even if we did get a builder's report and it was a challenge next door, we probably would have still gone for it, because the net positives of having a place next door that is, again, beautiful villa, and I'm passionate about conservation, about these houses turn 100 in a couple of years, and when
yeah,
they
that
hit their
is
100th
cool.
birthday, we want to bring them right back to where they used to be, if not better. So, you know,
Yeah, no, I get that. It's just, it depends. It's easier to say that until you see a building report, and then you realize that, it's a weather tightness issue or something, and it's going to cost you another 500 grand. I think that would actually probably
yeah.
change your opinion. Not that that's the case with this property, but I think
Yes, I hear
it's
you.
it's just the risk that you take on by not doing that due diligence.
Mm.
And we have people that do, that things go wrong, and I hope that it doesn't for you. Obviously, that's not what I'm wishing for.
Ah.
But you do have people that don't do that due diligence, and then the title's void. You have to spend another 100 grand on sorting that out, or there's leaks all through the home, or there's an electricity issue and it's uninsurable. So as much as I appreciate the vibe, Jason, I think there's also some some kind of risk reward
100%. And and
situation to
some of us
consider.
really do fly by the seat of our pants, right? So
Is that I'm getting the feeling, Jason, that that's sort of your vibe sometimes. Do you reckon you have a high risk tolerance?
no, I'm very, very risk averse. So I really, when the survey came through about the house buying experience, I thought this is probably where I am completely different. Like I'm the leather jacket guy when it comes to buying houses, I guess.
Yeah.
And otherwise, no, I'm just a bathrobe and slippers.
What, oh, that's very sweet. What is that? What do you think's driven that? Like, why with property? Is it because you just feel it is quite an emotional purchase, so you just
Yeah,
decide that you want something, you go for it, and it's a bit more kind of emotional as opposed to rational?
100%. I think this our houses in particular, my home in particular, I've got a very strong emotional bond to it. So it's my life has changed so much in the last 20 years, right? So when we first moved in, we were just barely, just starting out in our careers, and we were such different people. And the people who've come through our homes, the friends we've shared this experience with, the people who still come back to Dunedin and stay with us, like there is a sense of permanence that is around this place. And
Yeah.
so my investment strategy really is this is a forever home. And yes, old houses will deteriorate, but that's part of my plan, which is to make sure that I've got enough to reinvest into the homes to make them as good as they can be. And for sure, I mean,
So you at least sort of made sure that you had a budget
yes,
to kind of go towards renovations and maintenance.
yes, 100%. So I think the difference here is that, and in 2018, what did I pay for next door? It would have been about like 360K. So, like looking at all of this together, there's a lot of headroom in my budget in the years to come to reinvest into the house to
Yeah.
bring it up to scratch, relative to say living in a bigger city where you're probably looking at 1 point something, 1 point X million upwards, and you wouldn't want to just take a shot at a place, and then we know about the leaky home situation, and they're expensive. To your point, like, is it a 500K rebuild, or are there some serious structural issues?
The vibe's not quite enough when you're losing 500K.
Yes, yeah, that's right. And it all depends on like, I guess you're looking at the neighborhoods and the houses in the area as well. So this neighborhood's been here for nearly 100 years. So there's something to be said for, again, the type of section it's on. And, yeah, I mean, we joke about vibes, but you can tell when a place is, well, I can't say maybe you can tell, but like, again, for a simple older house, probably easier to spot the issues than for newer builds. This might
Yeah, I think I don't know if we're going to agree on that. Given you haven't gotten a building report, I'm not sure that the vibe will pass the spice check in terms of due diligence. But I appreciate your best efforts there.
You're very welcome.
Hey, when it comes to the due diligence on that second home, though, did you do the legal kind of documents and things through that?
We had it set in our hearts that we really wanted the place.
Yeah.
So
you just didn't want something to tell you otherwise.
yeah, come hell or high water. If it was broken, we would fix it, because I think the location, the opportunity, and all of that, as I said, it's one of those rare situations in which it would trump the cost to fix. And given, I guess, like, given that we lived next door to this place for so many years and been in it and spoken to the owners, and so again, you've got a better feel for a place rather than something.
But I think you want to be careful that doesn't give you undue confidence.
Yes,
if you know what I mean.
100%.
So it's just balancing that with actually, again, just being a bit more rational and emotional, kind of trying to balance those two.
I will 100% say that these two places are a complete exception, right? So if I were to buy another place somewhere or move somewhere else, then 100% I would go through all of the checks. It's only because the first place, like, I got so lucky with it, and then this one is sort of tagged on as a part of it.
Yeah, the first place was just, and that often happens with first home buyers, and that's why obviously we do this podcast, so that hopefully we capture some of those first home buyers so that they don't go with the come hell or high water.
Yeah.
Because as you said, you got lucky, and you don't really want to get lucky. You want to, make an educated investment. But it was a long time ago as well, and the process was different then too.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
that's okay. But in hindsight, it's good to hear that you're looking forward. You would you know.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, I mean, I wouldn't do like I wouldn't advise. I joke, right? But I wouldn't advise anyone go with the vibes. That's a very,
Yeah.
very risky thing to do. So please don't do what I did. I can tell you that with the older houses, the wiring needs to be changed here. Like we had the electricians looking at our
Yeah.
switchboard, which is still mounted on one of those old school marble blocks, and they're like, they don't make this anymore, and they don't invent this anymore, and so there are things that we've got to change up. For
Yeah,
sure.
and there's challenges from an insurance perspective with that type of property
100%.
as well. Like generally they want to see pictures of that electricity box and then they'll make a
Yeah.
decision around whether or not it's insurable. And you can find, there can be situations where you purchase something and it's not insurable and then it's the hell and not the high water.
That's right.
So
Yeah. And
yeah.
and there's the fire risk, of course, right? So when you're living in a weatherboard house,
And because you've bought the house next door, it's not just the fire risk on house 2, it's also on house 1.
yes, that's right.
You burn it all down.
Well, yeah, both. Yeah, that would seem super suspicious, but yeah, like
Yeah.
it is a possibility for sure. One of your questions was about, like checking to see it was in a flood zone. So
Yeah.
actually, we kind of are. Like in South Dunedin has had terrible flooding. So the first floods didn't hit until 2015, I think, and that was a good 10, 11 years after. And it came as quite a surprise to all of the residents here. And now we know that with climate change, it is an issue. So to be fair, like this is something that's changed on us in the last decade or so.
Yeah.
And it is a concern,
Super important now. And that's again an insurance risk as well. When it comes to, you look at LA fires and there's heaps of properties over there that are uninsured. And then some, I'm sure, have to pay a pretty sum, but there's billions of dollars in insurance claims that they'll have to work through. And then there's some that just don't have insurance.
That's right.
And so that's the very real reality when people are purchasing now. I know, as you say, it was a while ago that you bought and you didn't look at the council maps and things like that at the time, though I'm not sure, they were still there, but I'm not sure they were probably as,
I don't think
advanced as they are now.
they wouldn't have indicated the flood zone. I think the flood work has really only been done in the last decade and a bit. Like if I were to repeat my house buying journey, so I would not do what I did back then because completely clueless. And it was a fun ride and it's a fun story to tell, obviously, but it's
Well,
not.
now that you've just worked out you're a couple of roads from the beach, it's like, what an outcome.
Yeah, well, I mean, and the beach is probably going to be in my back door in about 30 years from now. So
That's the reality, though. That's truly the reality. I actually wouldn't purchase beachfront property personally.
Yeah.
Unless, as I said, you said a barren earlier. I would say baller is probably a more well-used term in modern times. But unless I was a baller, I say this, that I wouldn't purchase beachfront, and that is because of climate change. That is because of flooding and flood risk and insurance risk as well. Some properties aren't insurable that are beachfront now too, because of that very real risk over time.
And now I think the council are scrambling because this is one of the densest populated areas in all of New Zealand, South Dunedin. And so we are at the edge of the flood zone. And in October last year, I think, it flooded here again. So it's high in the agenda for the council. But I guess, there are many parts to your house buying story, right? So it's about also finding a neighborhood that you feel a part of, and does it sort of gel with your identity? I completely love that our neighborhood is full of houses from the 20s all the way through the 60s.
Yeah, it is a vibe.
Yeah, absolutely. But vibe can only get you that far. And again, it's completely different paying 163K for a house and taking a risk relative to paying, just say, $1.6 million for a house, right? So the risk really is a lot higher.
And has been just not just in Auckland, New Zealand, like globally, obviously property prices have just gone up. So even though they're lower now than they were a couple of years ago, in general over the last decade, it's a massive, it's just a change in risk, and therefore the way that you assess the risk should be different.
Oh, and it's a bee in my bonnet. I really, one of the reasons why I moved to New Zealand was just the sense of egalitarianism, and that everyone would be able to have a shot at home ownership. And
it is what Slice is all about.
Yeah. And it's a complete shame like this, that houses are now a commodity, and people have been priced out of the market, and everyone deserves a place to live. And it's such a shame that we've had our house prices run away on us, that the margin for error is so slim now, and let alone getting into the housing market and having interest rates change on you over the last couple of years, right? So it it breaks my heart, actually. Yeah, and that really creates a wealth divide, and it puts a lot of the current generation out of the ability to buy a home. Or you know I think gone are the days of just 30% of your income going into servicing.
It's way worse. It's like closer to 60%.
60 now.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, it is. It's painful.
Mm,
And a lot of people also back in the day might have been able to purchase by themselves. Now it's very much you're in a relationship, or actually mum or
thank you,
dad
Morgan.
helping.
Yeah.
That is the norm.
Mm,
The mid, and I think people don't understand this, but generally people are buying in pairs or more. And yes, relationships count as pairs, but back in the day you could feasibly buy something as an individual as well, and that's not the case any longer.
mm,
In terms of, I guess, love you pushing into that piece around wealth equality and opportunity. It's very near and dear to my heart, and Slice is all about providing people with the opportunity to own their own home.
mm.
So let's talk about PocketSmith and what you're doing in that space as well, because I'm really keen to share some of that with the audience today.
Sure. So PocketSmith is software that helps people organize their money. And we're still headquartered here in Dunedin, but we have customers in over 190 countries. And what we do, the problem we're looking to solve is that personal finances are just hard to manage. Today you've got bank accounts, credit card accounts, you've got your loan, KiwiSaver, investments and whatnot. And to actually get a single picture of your net worth and to figure out where it's going is difficult. So
Hmm.
what we do is we help people get all of that information into one place by connecting to their institutions. So we connect to banks, nearly every bank in the world. Here in New Zealand, for example, I've got like a home loan with ASB. I've got a credit card with Westpac. All of that can come into one place. I can organize my money. I can set budgets if I want to, and see what goes on into the future. So we call our customers household CFOs, and they're like the unsung heroes of any economy, because they're generally the people who've got to take control of their household finances, but they're not necessarily the people who want to do it. Like some people are keen on it, but it kind of falls down to the person who sort of minds doing it the least. But
Yeah.
it's a massive job, right? Because you've got to strategize about your money. You've got to have those conversations with your family, your partners, and whatnot. You've got to think about paying the bills and where we're going to go next. And that it tends to be a chore, but it's actually what keeps households together and thriving.
Yeah,
And
well,
so,
you
yeah,
think about, as much as it's nice to go with the vibe and to go with being emotional and not being rational, at the end of the day, your financial well-being and your understanding and communication around that obviously impacts your day-to-day and your relationships in the
yeah,
household as well.
yeah. And generally, it's surprising to think that it's quite hard actually to get answers about your money. So, if you were to just say to someone, well, how much do you think you spent on groceries in the last 6 months? It's not like information they can recall straight away.
Mm.
But it should be just at your fingertips, because it's what helps you make decisions going forward. So the
Yeah.
fact that this is a mystery is what we think of as financial exclusion in broad daylight. Yes, we've got access to online banking, mobile banking, we can transfer funds and look at transactions, but that actual knowledge of where we're at is not as easily accessible, and it shouldn't be a mystery, and you shouldn't need it.
Otherwise, otherwise you have to use an Excel spreadsheet, and
Exactly.
not everyone wants to do that or feels capable doing that.
A
So,
hundred percent. Yeah, 100%. So this is the baseline level knowledge that people should have. It should be like telling the time. You need to
yeah.
look at it. Whereas what we say is getting an answer to your question about your money is like you've got to build the clock before you
Yeah.
can tell the time. So you're looking at spreadsheets, or you've got to engage a financial advisor. And this isn't an ongoing thing. It should be like tracking your health, right? So you need to know on an ongoing basis. So this is the problem that we solve for households worldwide. And the genesis of it was actually when I bought a house. So
Oh,
when I bought the house, of course, my finances changed. I had repayments to make, and my family lives overseas. And so the question that I had was, well, when can I afford to travel to see my folks again? And I realized that, well, I need a cash forecast. In order to do a cash forecast, I needed to get access to my information. And so it's like, well, let's make an app for it. And that's what we have today.
Amazing. Congrats on your mahi to get to this point as well. And so in terms of home buyers, how can PocketSmith support them as well, be it future or current homeowners?
What we do for home buyers, first home buyers in particular, is to understand what those basic financial movements are to start with. So how much are we making? How much are we spending? How much are we saving?
And then how can we make changes to get to the goal?
Yeah, the other part of it's also forecasting. So what does it look like when we have a like mortgage repayments? What can we actually afford? And so what we think is if you could see the future outcome of every decision you could make, then you would make the best decisions. So the other mistake that I made, going in, I didn't actually do any forecasting. I just went and signed up for the home loan and I didn't know what the repayments were going to be. And then suddenly it's all changed. And I'm like, okay, now I'm going to have to wrap my life around this new expense.
All of a sudden you have to change your behavior based on what's happened to your finances rather than having the knowledge as power and basically making those decisions
100%,
in advance.
You feel so much more secure just knowing. So if somebody said to you know what, like what you're going to have left over is this much on a week-to-week basis, then you can make a call as opposed to finding yourself in that situation. And so that's something that I certainly would change about my home buying experience, is to be a bit more financially aware going into the situation. And so that's why we made this app, just to help people get clarity over their money.
Amazing. Yeah, a really great tool, because I think it's super important for buyers to not just take the money that is offered to them from the bank, but also consider actually what are their other goals? What are their other financial goals outside of paying a 30-year mortgage? No one's that excited by surely doing that all the time. So I think that's super powerful, particularly for buyers, to think about that broader picture.
And the other thing that I'm really happy that I got onto very early on was an offset mortgage. And that really has helped me pay stuff down as quickly as possible, particularly over COVID, where, there's not a lot of things to do with the money and interest rates are super low. That's when I really crushed a huge proportion of my mortgage. So I can't rate an offset mortgage enough. Of course, you need to do your research.
So for those that don't know, an offset mortgage is basically when you can have funds sitting in the account and therefore you don't have to pay interest on that amount that you've got sitting there. So you could receive your salary in there, for example, and then that would offset the amount of cost you have to pay towards your mortgage interest, the interest on the mortgage. That said, the funds are still available to you for daily use. So you can still take that out to buy what it is you need to buy. But we could have a whole nother episode on how to structure mortgages. So maybe another day we can dive into that. Absolutely. But to close off today, Jason, I'm going to ask you a question, which is, if your Californian bungalow first home had a vibey doorbell and that doorbell played a theme song, what song would it play?
Man, I think any song would just drive me up the wall, but I guess it might be Apate by Bruno Mars.
Oh, nice.
Like you press the doorbell, it goes Apate, Apate. Just look it up on Spotify. It's gonna make your day. Yeah.
I'll go play it after this. I've just pulled up YouTube because I'm ready to go have a listen. Thank you so much for joining us, Jason. It was an absolute vibe.
Thanks for putting up with the ridiculousness, Amy. And happy to tell you about more stupid decisions I've made in my life anytime.
Hey, it's any mistake made by you is a lesson to be learned by our audience. So thanks for being so generous today.
No worries. Thank you.
Thank you for joining our community. Please leave an Apple or Spotify review and provide feedback so we can improve our podcast for you. We really appreciate it. Check out the links in today's episode notes to get access to our free resources and your own NZ Home Loans financial advisor. On that note, a quick reminder, Slice the podcast does not provide financial advice, as we're not taking into account your personal circumstances. However, when you join our platform, we have a team of partners like New Zealand Home Loans ready to provide you with financial advice free of charge.